Long ball number one here on Morning Kick Around on Wednesday, March 26th. A pair of American players have a new boss when they get off the plane from the Nations League. Weston McKennie and Mr. Weah, their head coach, Thiago Motta, lasting less than a season. He's ousted as coach of Juventus. Where does that lead the two American stars here as they return from international break?
I mean, imagine that you have the crushing disappointment of having lost to Panama and Canada in the Nations League. You're Weston McKennie, you're Tim Weah. I mean, at least Tim Weah had a nice moment setting up a goal, sort of a secondary assist with the Diego Luna Patrick Ajimang thing. I don't know that
one
Weston
moment
McKennie,
of quality in the whole international window, right?
I mean, I don't think Weston McKennie was all that great, but that we're not reliving that disappointment. But you get off the plane, you're back in Turin. Maybe all you want is a big bowl of Italian pasta, and you get word. Oh yeah, your boss, the manager, the gaffer, Thiago Motta, sacked after what? I mean, he's been on the job to begin the year after leading Bologna to some success last season. Picked as the guy meant to lead Juventus into this new era as they kind of try to scramble their way back up to the top of Italian football. Not ideal. I'll throw in a couple details. Apparently, the guy who effectively runs Juventus, the director, Cristiano Giuntoli, told Thiago Motta, this is a report out of Turin, that he was ashamed at having chosen Thiago Motta. Why are you going to stab the man on the back as he's heading out the door, Robert?
That's a pretty brutal, exit interview quote there. That's pulling no punches. I don't know. Is that alleviating himself from leadership, or is that like taking the blame? Is that good leadership or bad leadership to trash the guy and saying it was my bad?
I think it's pretty poor leadership. We're going to see. So Igor Tudor takes over. And a little bit of history at Juve, having played there, having been an assistant. So there's at least some familiarity. Igor Tudor played there is what I'm saying. Okay. That's what I was that was the sentence I was completing. Obviously, that does not necessarily mean that he knows Weston McKennie all that well or Timothy Weah all that well. You know, both these guys have proven valuable. Now, it is in the context of Juventus underachieving relative to their expectations. And this is the catch-22 of this, right? Are Weston McKennie, Timothy Weah, they are established enough? Are they good enough players that they have to be in the team no matter who's in charge of Juventus, and they're players who can help Juventus achieve what they want? Or are they part of the problem because everybody's part of the problem at Juventus? And you can't fire all the players, so what do? You fire the manager. I would say that if we're going on history, we're going on the available evidence, Robert, I believe that Weston McKennie will prove his value to Tudor or whoever is next for Juventus.
Yeah, for context, this is going to be his fourth Juve manager, I believe.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's been the outskirts and worked his way into, important squad / penciled in starter for most of those coaches over their tenures.
Yeah, and think about this. Think about the perspective of it. As American soccer fan, unless you're a Juve fan, for American soccer fans, we watch what's happened with Weston McKennie under Thiago Motta, and we go, oh, look at how great Weston is at ingratiating himself to managers. Here he's done it again with Thiago Motta, and he's so invaluable that Motta keeps finding ways to use him in various places on the field. Now, the other side of that, though, if you're a director of Juve, Giuntoli, or if you're a fan of Juve, who has been critical of Motta or certainly doesn't like the way that the season has gone, then you will say, oh, that's an indication that Thiago Motta had no idea what he was doing. If he's constantly moving Weston McKennie around the field, yeah, maybe that's a nice weapon or a nice tool to have. But wouldn't you rather have a manager who goes, here's my team, this is how we play, we do this and we win games. And Weston McKennie's role is defined as X, Y, or Z because you are only going to get better and only be able to play at a high level or a high enough level to help Juventus to what they want to achieve if you are consistently playing in the same spot. Repetition, knowledge, understanding of what your role is. Timothy Weah has been pushed back to wing back under Motta. I'd be interested to see if that continues. He is not that player for the U.S. men's national team, or hasn't been traditionally, but after witnessing Yunus Musa struggle to play that position in this last window, maybe it's something that Mauricio Pochettino needs to consider. If we're talking about confidence level, how do you feel about Weston McKennie having to go through this again and maybe Tim Weah's role in the team moving forward? I'd say my confidence for McKennie is high. Just based on history, I have to believe. I have no reason to doubt. There's always going to be a little concern when a new manager comes in. But my confidence in Weston McKennie is high. Timothy Weah, a little less so. Like, I think he's a good player, and I think he'll have a role. But will he remain a starter under Tudor or whoever is next when Juventus comes out of the summer window and has to reckon with a wasted season, at least by their estimation? And I'll throw this in, too. This could affect one or both players. My understanding is that because they fired Motta and because of his contract, that will hit the books in a pretty negative way, and they may have to make up a 30 million euro shortfall. And we're talking about a couple players that, if you put them together, probably worth more than 30 million. And it not saying that they will be the ones sacrificed. And there's players like Koopmeiners and others who came in, Douglas Luiz, who came in and did not do well under Motta, who could be sacrificed instead. But it is something to keep an eye on.
There's a good article on ESPNFC.com. Italian expert Gab Marcotti listed 8 reasons for the justification of this, and among them, reason 7, confusion. Tim Weah has played in 5 different positions, ranging from right back to center forward. Weston McKennie has played 6 different roles. Lloyd Kelly, originally signed as a central defender, has been moved over to left back. So there's a lack of clarity for what Motta was even trying to do. So perhaps,
yes.
I mean, it's good to have a Swiss Army knife within the ranks, but at some point you have to have like some sort of magnetism to one spot. What is your ideal? You got to have some sense of importance of what your primary role is.
It just speaks to the lack of a clear plan. Like, it just speaks to a lack of not having a handle on how to get the most out of your team when you're moving pieces all around. Now, if he had established a sort of consistent level of success, if Juve was in second place and he was moving players around the pitch all the time, no one would say, "Oh, this is terrible. What are you doing, Thiago?" They would say, "Okay, this is working." That's the thing. The analysis is based on the results. If the results aren't good enough, and maybe they're not disastrous for Juve, I mean, they're certainly not AC Milan's results, but if they're not what Juve wants, then you have to look at it and say, well, Thiago Motta is just scrambling here. Right, he's treading water. He's just throwing. I'm going to use every metaphor possible. He's throwing stuff against the wall to see what sticks, Robert. And right now, it didn't. Well, clearly it didn't stick well enough for him to keep his job.
It sure didn't. Do you think that it's kind of wild that I think he had 42 games in charge, didn't quite figure out his plan? Are we being too harsh on international managers for only having a handful of games and not knowing their lineup? If there's top club managers that have 6 months week in, week out with them.
I mean, you're opening a big can of worms that I don't know I'm prepared to dive into. I would say on the surface, yes, but I would need to talk about it a lot more than just say yes. I mean, international managers need to strip down and simplify. That is the nature of the job because of the limited time you get with your team. Thiago Motta has his team out on the training pitch every single day. Should absolutely know better. And you can't say, well, if he doesn't know, then how could an international manager know? Plenty of club managers figure it out. Otherwise, we wouldn't have good teams. So,
just a note when considering Pochettino.